Hi, Sophie Andreo here. I'm here to help you understand how to become CASL compliant. The first few slides will take you through a high level how you can become CASL compliant, and then you can continue and stay with me for the next probably 10 minutes, and I'll get into it in a little bit more detail. I also have a blog that has all the detail in it. So Canadian anti-spam legislation, it's very important. Why is it important? Because as an individual, you or I can be penalized for $1 million per violation as of July 1st when this legislation is enforced. Or as an organization, you can be fined up to $10 million per violation. So you want to take this serious. So it's basically trying to help minimize the amount of spam we get, and the spam can be in the form of email, text messaging, LinkedIn InMail, Twitter direct messages, or Facebook direct messages. It covers anyone who does business for a living. So even if your email that you're sending is just a newsletter talking about something generic and you're not trying to sell something, if you have a link in that email back to your hyperlink, back to your website, it's considered commerce electronic messaging. So it really does cover most of us. So how are you going to be CASL compliant? You're going to need to know for every single email you have in your list, you have to have proof of consent. And what type of consent do you have? Is it express consent or is it implied consent? You also need to have in all of your digital communications an unsubscribe process. You also need to have the documented date of exactly when you received compliance, or sorry, when you received express consent or implied consent for every single email. So you need to have that documented and dated. So it sounds difficult, but it's not. I have a 3-step process that I think is that really does cover how to make this sane and effective for you. So first, what you should do between now and July 1st is divide all your email lists into 3 lists. Expressed, which means, they've checked off a box on this list, and I know that they checked this box off because I'm using Constant Contact, and it already has a report built into it, but it tells me exactly when these people clicked on, yes, please send me your newsletter. So you've got those. Those are fine. Then you have a whole bunch of them that are implied. I've already been sending emails to them on an ongoing basis. I have an existing relationship with them, or they were at my booth at a conference and they gave me their card to be entered into a draw. So I have some sort of relationship with them. They're a client of mine. So it's implied that they want your newsletter. They haven't given you express consent, but it's implied. So you need to have those in a separate column, and I'll tell you why in a second. Then unknown. Those that you have no clue, you have no clue how you got their emails, you need to have those in a separate one. So once you've divided them, you're rocking. So now what you want to do is those implied ones, you actually have, CASL will give you 3 years to turn them into express. Or what happens with implied after July 1st is you're allowed to say this is 2016, and you now have some implied consent by someone because they're a client of yours, or you've met them at a conference and you've got their card, but you didn't say the words, I am now adding you to my list, but you have their card. That's implied consent. You're allowed to send them emails for 2 years. After those 2 years, you're supposed to stop, unless it was express consent, which means with express consent, you can send them emails forever and ever and ever until they click on unsubscribe. So then what I suggest you do between now and July 1st is take your unknown consent emails, and if they are valuable emails to you and you'd like to continue sending them, or you'd like to start sending them some sort of communication, get yourself involved with Constant Contact and send them, set up your branding on there, and then send them something of value. Send them either some sort of, just send them something of value, and in that email, make sure you say, I am sending you this email, I'd like to comply to CASL. If you do not want us to receive emails from me into the future, please indicate you'd like to unsubscribe. Do that before July 1st. And then what happens is if they do not unsubscribe, you can now flip them into your implied. Why am I saying they're still implied? Because they didn't click on yes, please send me a newsletter. That's kind of a soft way of getting them on your implied. You could, if you want to, take that list of however many you have and say, I'd like to turn you into expressed consent before July 1st. Please click on the box so I'll continue to send you emails. But that's tough because I find on average only 23% will even open the email itself. So if they don't even open it, they're not going to click on it, you're going to lose 75% of your that list. So I suggest the first approach. Then at least you can continue sending them emails for 3 years after July 1st. Get yourself into a relationship with them, add some value, and then turn them into express consent, because you really only want to send emails to people that really want to do business with you anyhow. So that's number one. Number two, review all the wording wherever you're collecting emails, and make sure you add the following. By giving us your email, you're allowing us to, you're giving us express consent to put you in our newsletter list or to put you into our email list, whatever is appropriate for your company. So you need to add that wording online as well as at your booth. If you are collecting cards for a draw, you want to add that to your draw sign, so it says, instead of just saying drop your card off here, it says by dropping your card off here, we'll enter you into our draw. You're also going to be entered into, you're also giving us express consent to be put into our newsletter list. So you want to add that to your verbiage everywhere. Finally, you want to review all your wording for outgoing communication so that it does two things. One, you need an opt-out process in there. You need an unsubscribe button on everything you send out after July 1st so that people can remove themselves from you if they want. That process, I think, should be immediate, especially using something like Constant Contact. However, the legislation gives you 10 business days to allow you to unsubscribe if you're doing it manually. And finally, the wording, you need to have on all your outgoing communication, you need to have your address. You also need to have some way for that human receiving your email to communicate back to you, whether it's phone number, email. So you need to have something in there. So they're getting, so that will help you get compliant. That's all there is to it. So I've got all sorts of details on a little bit more as to what is express, what's implied, and what's unknown. So it's in my blog if you want more information. I've got collecting emails, just some more advice on how you want to go about collecting emails. Think about your electronic commerce a little bit, your electronic communications a bit different. I think you should start adding after July 1st, start including, share this email and I will, give you 10% off my next whatever, but share this email with your colleagues who you think might benefit from my services. Like, try and get people to share their emails with others, because that way, just like on Facebook, just like on Twitter, when someone they trust shares something, they're going to look at it a little bit more seriously. And that's going to be like an introduction. And that's allowed with the new legislation. You're allowed to send an email to someone that you have an introduction to. So this, you might want to read that a little bit closer, but that's kind of really cool. And then I want to, I already talked about this, I want to share with you quickly who's exempt. Non-for-profits, you're exempt when you are asking for money. So you're not exempt to try and get volunteers. You're not exempt when you're trying to tell them about other things. But if you're actually asking for money, non-for-profits are exempt. Politicians are exempt when they're asking for soliciting contributions through their political campaign. You're exempt to communicate with friends and family. I don't know how they're defining friends, but you're exempt there. And communications to, obviously, within an organization. If you're part of a membership-based organization, as the organization, you're allowed to communicate to your members. Out of Canada, this may or may not be obvious, but this is a Canadian law, so when you're communicating to other countries, you're supposed to adhere by their legislation, not ours. And finally, it's kind of odd, but over closed networks like BBMs, messaging, that is exempt. That's exempt. And this one, as I was mentioning before, if I know Joe and he and I have a business relationship and Jill wants to contact Joe and she's asked me, I can give her Joe's email and then she can email Joe once as a referral, and she's allowed first electronic message is sent by the person for the purpose of contacting someone following a referral by an individual who already has a relationship with them. So that's interesting. So she's allowed to contact him once. He needs to be able to say, no, I don't want to have any further communications. So those are 3 steps that I think would really help get you going. And again, these are services that we offer. Be glad to help you with it. But and here's some more information if you're interested. In the Fight Spam legislation, the Government of Canada has a website on it, and then a copy of the full act is also another link if you're interested in reading that. Again, it has many more aspects, but I think these 3 elements that I covered here are what most small business, large businesses need to know in order to keep them CASL compliant. Thanks. I hope that was helpful.